So I see this week in the news, we have had COP30 in, I believe, Brazil, where all these elite people get together and they talk about the environment and, man-made climate change. And, we have people like Prince William, for instance, talking about it. We have Keir Starmer talking about the problems of the environment and so forth. But it's always amazed me with the hypocrisy of these people, how they fly there on their private jets and go across the world and they talk about how it's going to change the planet and talk about how it's going to change your life and my life and how our lives are going to become more difficult. But the last time I checked, I did not own and do not own a private jet. I've never been on a private jet. Have you been on a private jet? But yet these people are so hypocritical of, the world we live in and the environment. And no doubt this will make things worse for the individual who live a normal life, people like myself and like yourself, because they want to tax you and they want to make you pay for the environment. But the one thing we don't talk about, and this is just my belief, is that, let's face it, a lot of climate change is led by the sun. The planet Earth goes through various stages all throughout history where the planet heats up and then it gets cold again with the little mini ice ages and even larger ice ages. So this is not something new on the planet. And yes, mankind and humanity may be having a small, percentage of, of increasing the the gases in the atmosphere and climate change and making it a little bit worse. But most of it is led by the sun. But why is it that they're always going about human-made climate change? Because it's all about taxation. So there I am, let's say braggy, myself, I'm a politician and I work in Parliament. And, I want to create a new tax about the environment. So we have to call it man-made and human-made environmental change and climate change. Because if I suddenly told you the truth and say, well, actually, 99% of the climate change is actually from the sun and solar activity, I can't exactly come up next week in Parliament and say, well, I'm going to create a sun tax to tax everybody on the planet or in the UK of what the sun is doing. So, yes, and I'm not denying that climate change doesn't exist. It does exist. Humanity has added a little bit towards that. But most of climate change, in my belief, is led by the sun, because I follow the science and I've read the papers and would like to think I know what I'm talking about. But it always amazes me, these people of privilege. I mean, Prince William, and don't get me wrong, I don't mind the chap fundamentally, but he's probably got servants and a butler and all that kind of manner of things, a bit like Downton Abbey. And Keir Starmer's got £2,000 glasses and suits paid by Lord Ali. I don't have that privilege in life. Most of you guys won't have that privilege because we're normal human beings who work the 9 to 5. And I just find it amazing that these people gather at these meetings every year across the world and try to tell us that we've got to behave, we've got to not travel too far. And they want to bring in this, this carbon credit thing, however it's going to work, I don't know, and dictate to where you can drive your car to and have different zones across the city you live in and make you pay for the damage that we're doing collectively towards the planet, when most of it is not humanity, it's the sun that is heating up the planet. And certainly if we go back to the classical period in the medieval age, from the 7th or 8th century up until the 13th century, water and the sea levels were a much higher, if not a little bit higher than what they are now, and sea levels also drop as well. So climate change is not a new thing. It's been happening all throughout history, and we have these classical periods in history where the planet resets itself because of solar activity, and that is fascinating. So yeah, I get a bit fed up of seeing these people on the news trying to tell me what to do. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below.